Hey, what's up everybody? It is Kellen here from Start Your Systems, and welcome to another MX vs ATV Supercross Encore, the official track gameplay video series where today we're doing 2017 Phoenix Round 4, which is actually in Glendale, which is like a sort of suburb-ish kind of thing of Phoenix. I'm going to do, should I do 12 or 15 laps? I think I'll do 12 laps just so that this isn't ridiculously long. But I wanted this video to be a little longer for a couple reasons. One of which is I've already tried to play this track once, and I was pretty shite at it, for lack of a better word. So I'm going to try to like get progressively better as the video goes on and make it not look as bad as I think I was about playing it just a minute ago. But I also wanted to kind of use this video to sort of like talk about what's going on in real life in motocross and supercross. And last weekend, Anaheim 2 was a busy weekend for real life supercross and motocross. As championship leader, I hope I'm not spoiling it for you at this point if you're watching this video, but I'm not trying to, but it is 4 days after it happened now, so if you don't know already, you should know that at the time, championship leader HRC's Ken Roxon crashed on like the 8th, I think, lap of the main event, going after his teammate Cole Seeley for second, and broke his forearm and dislocated his elbow and dislocated his wrist. And timetable for all that's going to be a while. Hopefully he'll make it back for motocross. I don't foresee him coming back for Supercross for any reason if he's going to miss as many rounds as he's going to, and then I don't see him coming back at the end of Supercross. So hopefully he can at least make it back for motocross, but that's just a disastrous blow in the championship for all of us. I mean, given it a few days now to kind of think about it, and it's not the end of the championship by any means, but from here on it's pretty kind of easy to just more or less hand it to Dungey to win his 4th championship in Supercross. I think that Muscan is going to get better as the season goes on, and Seeley's looked pretty good, but Tomac is already way far down in this, points-wise, because he's had three fairly bad races to start the year, and I think he's almost a full race distance behind Dungey now already. So unless Tomac turns it around real quick, he's just not really in the championship hunt anymore. And the same could be said now for Jason Anderson, who is why I'm probably going to make this video as long as it is, so I can talk a little bit about Mr. Jason Anderson during this video. And kind of want to talk a little bit about that incident between him and Vince Freeze, which is quite the talking point this week. For those of you that don't know, it was the second 450 heat race, I believe. No, actually, I'm sorry, it was the first, because the second one, Dungey crashed and missed the main event. So the first one, who was leading? Was it Kenny that was just walking away from everybody? I think it was. And behind Kenny was Vince Freeze in second, and the top 4 transferred to the main event. And in his first race of the season, Malcolm Stewart was battling it out in 3rd with Marvin Muscan, and they were kind of going at it. And Jason Anderson was kind of sneaking up into the picture, and there's 2 other riders also right in there, I think Reed and like Seeley or something. They were like kind of catching that whole group. There's like 7 guys all grouped together. And what ended up kind of happening was Malcolm cut underneath Marvin before the only Supercross triple on the track, got down the inside of him and easily had the pass made, but went into the next corner and wasn't really in a position to pass Vince Freeze for second, but went for it anyway and put a pretty aggressive pass on him, and got by, and Freeze stayed up, and everybody kind of collected up into the corner. But because Marvin was so like enthralled with what's going on in front of him, Anderson slid around both of those guys and got ahead of Freezy. Or actually, I'm sorry, Marvin didn't get passed by Anderson. Anderson, who was behind Marvin, got around Freezy as well. So they're going through this little small sand section into the next corner, and Freeze is suddenly behind Malcolm and Anderson and alongside of Marvin Muscan. And for whatever reason, in his mind, I don't know what he was trying to accomplish, but he dove pretty far down the inside to try to, I guess, repass Anderson, or maybe he was trying to show a wheel to Malcolm to say, hey, I didn't like that or something. Whatever it was, he ruined Jason Anderson. I mean, like, there's no way around it because Anderson cut down the berm and just got cleaned out. And Anderson even had, like, he posted on Instagram, he has like a huge gash in his arm because he just got like dragged by Freeze's bike. And while I don't necessarily think that Freeze's move was all that dirty, his intentions were ridiculously dumb. I mean, he had nowhere to go going into the corner. The only thing he was going to do was stop and turn the bike down the corner and go pretty much nowhere and probably lose another spot in the process. So I just didn't really see where his mind was there. I mean, I understand aggressive passing, and Malcolm just did it to him, and I'm not saying Freeze's move was the worst thing ever, but you know, the end result was Anderson getting ruined and Muscan running over the back of Anderson's bike going down as well, and they both missed the main. And so that's not the crazy part that happened, or really anything that started what has become the fiasco of the week. After the race, Anderson apparently, I've seen some video from like a camera phone of it, went up to Freeze, and as Freeze's mechanic was getting on the bike, he started hitting Freeze in the helmet, like, what are you doing? You're an idiot. And Freeze didn't transfer the main either because he got knocked behind Reed and Seeley in the process, and they both made it through. And so Anderson's like yelling at him, blah, 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 this. And then Freeze's mechanic gets on the bike, and Freeze is just trying to ride away because Freeze never gets into like fist altercations or anything like that, or verbal altercations for that matter. He usually stays out of it unless Weston Pike's beating on the back of his helmet. So Freeze starts riding away, trying to get away. Anderson chases him down, is pushing on him, yelling at him, trying to get him to, I guess, stop so that he can give him a piece of his mind or something, and Freeze is having none of it. And all the while, Freeze's mechanic is like giving Anderson some shoves and stuff like that, as Anderson's like reaching out and touching Freeze, and Freeze isn't doing anything, but Anderson's still trying to go at him, and they're just basically having a little tiff going towards the tunnel. And then the video shows that Anderson reached out for him one last time and gave him a good hard shove on the side of the helmet as they entered the tunnel, and Freeze's mechanic pushed Anderson back down to the ground, and Anderson fell. And I mean, it's pretty embarrassing for Anderson because here he is trying to be all tough about it, and he ends up falling. And to the point about Anderson, it is a little hysterical to me that for someone who is as aggressive as he is and has absolutely cleaned people out hardcore, especially Cole Seeley, that he was so kind of fed up with Freeze suddenly there in that instance. But anyway, what ended up happening from all of that was, as far as I know, Anderson was never initially alerted to his disqualification for the night, which he was, and I believe that that is fair under the AMA FIM rulebook. Reaching out and punching or slapping another rider after the race, during the race, whatever, is prohibited and can result in a disqualification, and in Weston Pike's case last year, a suspension as well. So Anderson could have gotten off a little worse, and I think he understood that once he was notified he was disqualified, but they never told him. He came back out for his semi, and apparently he had to find out through Jenny Taft, which is the pit reporter for Fox Sports 1, that he had been disqualified for the night. And there are some mixed reports that apparently his team was told and that his team never told him or something like that. But either way, I think it's ridiculous that you have all these AMA and FIM officials running around thinking like they run the show, and they're supposed to, but they really don't. And they can't even bother to go to his trailer and tell Jason Anderson to his face he's been disqualified for the night. It's a little ridiculous. But again, I don't have any ifs, ands, or buts about Anderson's disqualification. I think maybe we're getting a little bit too over the top with the DQ and the slapping of the helmet, but it's in the rule book, so it has to be there. I'm just saying that, like, in NASCAR, those guys post-race will go, like, literally fist fight on pit road, and all that happens is usually fines. No suspensions, no disqualifications, unless someone gets physically hurt, then maybe there will be some suspensions, because then you're getting on the border lines of assault and stuff like that. Anyway, Anderson's disqualification, I'm not that upset about. What I am upset about is that Vince Freeze and his team got away with nothing at all in that situation. And you guys can argue that point with me if you want. I'm obviously making this video so you guys can have a comment section to vent it a little bit. But yeah, there's no reason whatsoever that Vince Freeze's mechanic should be allowed to push back in that situation at all and not have any repercussions for it. He was doing the exact same thing to Anderson that Anderson was doing to Freezy. And I mean, Freeze is a big boy. He can fight his own battles. You know, stop the motorcycle and start talking to Anderson if you feel like you're endangering your mechanic. I get the mechanic wanted to try to self-defend himself from a guy that was trying to attack the rider that was piloting his motorcycle. But if you're going to DQ Anderson for reaching out and slapping an opponent, then you're going to have to also DQ Freeze and or the Moto Concepts team for having a crew member also reach out and subsequently slapping an opponent. That's how it works. It's not just like, you know, one person does it and the other person gets away with it skate-free. It's a tit for tat. If he does the exact same thing which he was doing, then he deserves to be disqualified just like Anderson did. So I thought it was ridiculous that Freeze's mechanic wasn't suspended for the night, and in my opinion, Freeze wasn't also disqualified for the night because your team is, or you are just responsible for your team's actions as your team is for any actions that you do. Hence why in 2013 when Jeff Alessi pointed a laser, I know it's the same team, but you know, it's kind of a similar situation. When Jeff Alessi was pointing a laser at Ryan Filippoto's eyes on the start at the Washougal National, the whole team, you know, faced repercussions from that. Mike Genova and Tony Alessi were both suspended indefinitely for the rest of the season. Mike Alessi himself had to face a fine of like $20,000. Jeff Alessi was indefinitely banned from motocross and suspended by the FIM and all that stuff like that because just him, whether there was unbeknownst to the team or not, was pointing a laser at a fellow rider. So if the mechanic's going to reach out and touch Anderson and try to, you know, use his hands to do something there, then, you know, Freeze should have to face the same penalty. And I am a little shocked that the AMA and the FIM had no bones about that situation whatsoever. John Gallagher and Kevin Crowther seem to make some very ridiculously stupid decisions quite often. I don't feel like they're the best AMA or FIM officials to be running the show, but it's who we got, and for some reason they continuously seem to muff up situations like that. So that's kind of my beef with the whole thing, is that, you know, Anderson, disqualify him, sure, whatever. He broke a clear as day rule book, in, you know, rule in the rule book that you cannot reach out and slap a competitor in a fighting manner, because basically you're, you know, using fighting methods to either assault or attempt to battery someone on the racetrack or off the racetrack when you're doing that. So it's almost like a crime anyway, but, you know, just in terms of the rule book, but the FIM and the AMA standards, he was breaking a rule. Totally fine. You know what? But, you know, you got to do the same thing to Freeze's mechanic then, or at least Freeze himself, because he's responsible for his mechanic being on the back of the bike. But to Freeze's credit, like I said, he was trying to kind of get away from the situation. He didn't want to be in it. If he started fighting back, then maybe he would have been suspended as well, like Pike was last year. Freeze was on probation for all of last year, so you know, there's that. He's not on probation anymore, but just saying. And again, I just want to reiterate that I feel Anderson's disqualification was justified, but I felt he was unjustly prosecuted, if you will, in the fact that Freeze's mechanic did not face the same punishment. So you can flame on all you want if you think that I am wrong in that situation, but there is absolutely no reason Freeze's mechanic should have any bones in that argument or situation or whatever. He was not the rider on the track that caused that incident. His rider is right in front of him. It's part of the reason why I feel like the mechanic shouldn't be allowed to ride without a helmet on the back of the riders' motorcycles, because it's already kind of a dangerous situation anyway. And then when you have two riders that are, you know, ready to go fisticuffs with each other, or at least Anderson was with Freeze, and one rider doesn't seem to bother a damn about it, and you're basically endangering your mechanic's life by trying to storm off into the tunnel and not get involved in that situation. Again, I think that there's a lot of things that the AMA and the FIM went about doing that whole thing wrong. They could have gone better. And yeah, it ruined Anderson's championship at this point. I mean, he did not race the rest of the night, didn't race the main, and up until that point he had gone 4-4, and Dungey went 2-2. So if Anderson was able to click off a podium or something, he'd still be right there with Marvin, and things would be reasonably close, but no longer in it anymore. So with Tomac way back there and Seeley finally getting his first podium of the season, but still not really that close to Dungy. The only person really that seems to have a shot at Dungy for the rest of the season now is Muscan, now that Roxon's out. And really Anderson has only himself to blame for sure, but I was frustrated with that situation and how the AMA handled freeze and stuff like that. But it is what it is. Love to hear you guys' comments, of course, what you guys think. I fully expect you guys to come at me with some flaming comments, but I certainly don't care. If you're going to flame on at me, then that's your own problem. I have my ways and things that I feel about it, and I'm just venting about what I feel should have happened. And you don't have to agree with me. I don't care. If you get mad, I will not respond to you, though, because you're just basically making yourself look dumb at that point. But yeah, 250 class was boring. Justin Hill walked away to a win. Jeremy Martin crashed out again. His championship is pretty much over. And the 450 championship is probably going to be hella boring for the rest of the year unless Muscan picks it up. So cheers to Muscan. Hopefully figuring it out sooner or later and starting to win some races. Win his first race, of course. I'd love to see it. But otherwise, Dungy's going to walk to the championship, which, again, I don't mind. Dungy's a great rider, great guy, great champion. And so if he wins it, it is what it is. But sucks for Kenny with the broken arm and stuff like that. Anyway, this has been another MX vs. ATV Supercross Encore Pro Track Edition for Phoenix 2017. If you guys like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you guys in the next video.